We are just getting back from a few awesome days away of camping with friends, and I knew one of the first things that I need to do when I got home, besides harvesting the fresh produce that needed to be picked, was to do our quarterly grocery stock up. We've been picking a ton of ripe apples lately, which will primarily turn into applesauce and canned for the year ahead, but we always set aside a few to turn into this apple oat crumble. This is going to make the perfect treat for our family for later in the day after a full day of errands. We just added this recipe to our website, so I'll link that below. When it comes to grocery shopping, we've always had a strict grocery budget, but my strategy around saving money on groceries has evolved over the years. When we first got married, before we started focusing on eating real, nutrient-dense foods and cooking things primarily ourselves, I was that crazy coupon lady who would come home with a cart full of primarily processed and convenience grocery items for pennies. After we made the switch to real food, my strategy was to shop sales. So every couple of weeks, I'd plan our meals around the meat, vegetables, and dairy that I could find at the highest quality for the best price. I'd go to a couple different grocery stores and was a regular at local farms and farmers markets to make this work. Since we've started our homestead and our family has grown, my strategy has shifted again. Finding time to go to the grocery store is increasingly challenging these days. Since we're able to grow or raise the majority of our own meat, dairy, and produce, or try to buy it locally in bulk, we don't need to get as much from the store as we used to. The primary things that we're shopping for are dried goods and things for baking and grains, along with some extra condiments and spices. We've found Azure Standard and Costco to be the best places to stock up on those things to get high quality for the best prices. And I did a video a few months back actually sharing my first experience using Azure Standard, and I learned so much from all of you in the comments of that video that we have changed what we're buying at Azure quite a bit. So I wanted to share an update with you of what we're doing now. For us, stocking up every 3 months is the perfect sweet spot. It's usually the time when we're out of several things that it's worth my while to plan a half-day trip around doing our Azure pickup and a Costco run. If we really need an ingredient before then, I'll just run to the local grocery store in our town in a pinch, but we really try to make do with what we have and wait those 3 months before stocking up again. And just as an example of that, this apple crumble that I'm making, we're actually out of cinnamon. We're going to pick it up today in our Azure order, so I'm just substituting some nutmeg for the cinnamon. It's still going to be delicious, but things like that, we just make do with what we have. And just to full disclosure, I will stop at an Aldi close by every now and again to grab avocados and bananas because those are well loved in our home. This strategy of spreading out our trips to the store forces us to use what we have and really saves us a ton of money. I found that this slower approach of stocking up just every few months causes us to be much more intentional with our lists and with our purchases and how we use things, since we know that it's going to be a while before we go back to the store again. The statistics around food waste in the U.S. are crazy. Nearly 40% of all food is wasted, which equates to 60 billion tons or 120 billion pounds of food. We do our best to really value our food and be intentional with what we grow and how we shop, and how that leads to no food being wasted, but also teaches that set of values to our kids and to the next generation. Like I mentioned earlier, this past weekend we did a long camping weekend with friends, which was amazing and so good. Such a sweet time for our family. But with that, we weren't able to pick up our Azure order. One thing that can be tricky with ordering with Azure is that you really don't know until after you place your order when the truck is going to come to deliver the food. It can be any day of the week, anytime during the day. But with that, we've also found that there's this really awesome community feel with Azure. So in our case, I had a friend nearby who also does regular Azure pickups and was able to grab our order for us. And that's really common. And we were able to return the favor to our friend by dropping off some fresh bouquets of basil when we went to pick up our Azure order. So it was a win-win all around. The coordinator at our drop site is really helpful to arrange alternative pickup options or find someone else close to you to pick up your order if you're unable to make it. But then a different week, when I'm able to go, I can help someone out by picking up their order for them. So on our way to Costco this morning, we made a quick stop, we picked up our Azure order, and we always try to go to Costco in the morning when they open on a weekday if at all possible. It's way less crowded if you go then.
Yeah. All right, let's hold hands.
After trying several things from Azure now, I've been really impressed. I've found the quality of almost everything that I've gotten there to be far superior than anything I've ever gotten from Costco or really any other grocery store. I still do a lot of price comparing because there are several things that are significantly less expensive from Costco, but now try to balance out that quality versus price piece to make the best decision for our family on where to buy it. From Costco, we are still buying several of our baking staples. I love the 5-pound bags of 1 degree oats that they have that are certified gluten and glyphosate free. We have enough people in our life that follow a gluten-free diet that I like to use these specifically when I'm baking or cooking so that I know it's going to be friendly for them.
All right, we got dog food and oats.
At this point, we're still buying our nuts, peanut butter and almond butter, dried fruit like organic raisins, organic cane sugar and brown sugar, and chocolate chips from Costco. I'm sure that the quality from Azure is better here, and eventually I'd love to switch to things like sucanat instead of cane sugar, but since we are primarily using these for baking and more as occasional things that we make, like special treats, I'm sticking with buying them from Costco because of the lower price for now.
Lots of almonds today. It's a very almondy sort of day.
We also picked up some almond flour from Costco this time around. It's not something I get very often, but we do use it for baking occasionally, so I like to have it on hand, and we are almost out of it.
You can put it on top of those.
Is that the spot?
Yeah.
Rice. Does anyone see chocolate chips at all? I think I
No.
missed those.
I also like to get the 20-pound bags of organic white rice that Costco has, and we stocked up on their organic noodles as well for some occasional quick meals. Costco does have some sales, and if I see certain things on sale, I may pick them up even if they weren't necessarily on my list. So I always check to see if their seafood is on sale and stock up when it is.
Get these kind of a special treat thing. All right, I think that is all for us today. Rice, chocolate chips, dog food, vinegar, dates, nuts, oats, white sugar, brown sugar, peanut butter, almond flour, pasta. Good, good, good. Here we go.
Today I did pick up a package of these clean ingredient chicken sausages that were on sale and some Wild Planet sardines because finding high quality protein if you need something quick or on the go can be tricky. So I love to have a few things like this on hand for those occasions. They also had their Vital Protein Collagen Peptides on sale, which is something that I like to have on hand, so I also got those.
Even though it's not on the list.
I had previously gotten the 5-pound bag of collagen from Azure, which I'll probably stick to using in the future, but I didn't place it on my Azure order this time, and so when I saw it was on sale at Costco, I went for it.
All right, we got it.
You got it.
There's $1.60. Give you a penny.
Okay. White vinegar is another thing I like to get at Costco since we exclusively use it for cleaning. Azure sells a really great high quality white vinegar that I'd get if we were using for eating or canning, but it's much more expensive than the Costco option, so since we're using it just for cleaning, I like to get it there. I switched to purchasing our coconut oil from Costco to buying it in the 5-gallon buckets at Azure, which is not only more affordable, but there is a distinct quality difference. I just scoop some of it out from the large 5-gallon bucket into a smaller container so I have what I need on hand. Gluten-free flours are another great item to buy in bulk from Azure if you need them. So we got this 5-pound bag of tapioca starch, which we regularly use in baking and as a thickener. And my friend actually that I picked up the order from, her family eats gluten-free, and she was telling me all the different gluten-free flours that she always gets from Azure and how they have them at such great quality for a great price. We also really have been loving the roasted carob powder from Azure, and this one feels like a little bit more of a splurge to me, but we use it pretty regularly, so I think it's worth it for us. So we love to use the carob powder to make chocolate milk, and I love it because it's naturally sweet on its own, and you don't need to add any additional sugar or sweetener like I would if I was using cocoa powder, plus it contains the extra minerals and nutrients. Some other things that we got from Azure this time are apple cider vinegar and Worcestershire sauce in a gallon and half-gallon container. So we usually make our own apple cider vinegar this time of year with the scrap apples from our applesauce. But since Jim uses it often in making mozzarella cheese, I like to make sure that we have a high-quality apple cider vinegar with enough strength and acidity for that. We also picked up a 5-pound bag of baking soda that we use for both baking and cleaning, as well as baking powder, since most of the baking powder that you buy from the store contains aluminum. Spices are another thing that I've started buying exclusively from Azure now. The quality is great, and the 1-pound bags are really affordable. I just fill up a small spice jar as I need them. So these are some pretty basic little spice jars that I picked up, but you could get a really cute spice rack with different little mason jars or some different options with labels on them, and fill them up if you buy the bulk option. On this trip we got cinnamon, chili powder, and an Italian blend, but they have a ton of different bulk spice options. One thing that's pretty common with both Azure and Costco actually is that they may not have in stock one or more of the items that you're looking for, or maybe the brand that you're used to buying has changed. So this happened to us this time around with Azure. I had ordered coconut aminos and they didn't get delivered with my order, but that's okay. It's not really something that we use that much anyways. And then at Costco, like the brand of chocolate chips that I always have gotten, they didn't have, and it was replaced with a different brand. So these are just kind of normal things that happen when you buy in bulk from these places. Dried grains and beans are another thing that we always get from Azure, but we had stocked up on those 50 and 25-pound bags on a previous order, so we'll be good for a while on those. But one thing that you guys raved about from Azure was their 5-gallon buckets with their gamma lids that seal tight on top of those 5-gallon buckets. And so we had previously gotten some cheap food grade 5-gallon buckets and lids from our local hardware store, and recently had the experience of some of those pails just completely failing after less than a year. And when you're using them to store bulk food like wheat berries or beans, that's definitely not what you want. I'm so excited about these to be able to safely store those grains without risk of something happening, and knowing that those gamma lids are completely sealed but can also be opened easily whenever we need to use them. This is just an example for us of where we wish we would have invested in something quality that will last us for years from the start, instead of the cheap, convenient thing from the box store. You guys also said great things about stocking up on canning lids from Azure, which we haven't tried yet, but I probably will for next year. All in all, we spent around $160 at Costco and $160 at Azure, so around $320 total, which will be most of what we spend on food for the next few months. This doesn't include the dog food that we bought from Costco, since that's a farm expense for us and we pay for that separate from our family groceries. It's a bit more challenging now keeping a month-to-month grocery budget like we always had in the past, since some months may be zero while other months are quite high when we need to stock up, but we found that switching to more of a yearly food budget and just keeping track of it on a month-to-month has been working really well and just balances out over the course of the year. I am so grateful for all of you for sharing your favorite Azure and Costco finds and what's worked well for your situation. We love hearing from you all so that we can learn from each other to nourish our families.